and we've created such a perfect fog these days. Like really the fog has been, it's become the fog is such a business. Every little thing that that can be created to take away your attention from, or that can take away our attention from figuring out who we are, or like kind of spelunking inside of ourselves and trying to get some answers, has really been created. It's pretty masterful how much has been created out here on the outside to keep our attention away from delving inside of ourselves.
Well, attention is the basic currency, right? Everyone fights for it, and it's incredibly valuable. And it certainly is the case that it's also very tempting to turn your attention to things that grasp your short-term interest rather than, say, pursuing the causes of negative emotion. That's a good example. And of course, we have massive corporations working night and day to continually attract our attention. And there's something sinister about that, obviously, but you can't exactly lay responsibility at their feet, because there's a tremendous overlap between educating people, informing them, and making them attend to you. And the lines between all of those things are very foggy, let's say, and difficult to lay out. It's certainly the case that one of the ways that you can keep yourself in a fog about yourself is through distraction with with anything in the external world. And obviously computer technology, cell phones, games, well, not negative in and of themselves, perhaps, are there at any moment to distract you.
At any moment, the little things that are time consumers, like there's companies, there are businesses where that's their business, is to get your attention. Everything's trying to get our attention. Sometimes I worry that the forces that are out there that have like started to, really create algorithms even on how to get our attention and how to keep it, that those forces are stronger than our human abilities to keep them away from us. Do you feel like that's true, or do you feel like that's just a fear?
I really do believe that that's true. Look, as far as I can tell, we are teaching computers to read our minds as fast as we possibly can. And they're way better at it than they were 10 years ago. And they're going to be so much better at it in 5 years that we won't even be able to imagine it. And when I say read our minds, I'm not talking about something magical, but for example,
you're not talking about like guess what's happening. It's not like they're going to guess what we're thinking or guess what we want for dinner or anything like that, probably.
Well, they might, but they won't do it by directly reading our brain waves or anything like that. They're already algorithms that target advertisements to send at you are pretty good at deciding what it is that you're motivated to pursue. And now, I
actually just got an ad on my phone for your new book, actually. So, yeah.
Oh, well, good. So I'm involved in the same process, the same nefarious process.
Oh, just joking.
I've read that I think it's Facebook, but I might be wrong about this, that owns Oculus and the VR headset company. Now, you can track eye movements with VR headset, and psychologists use the tracking of eye movements to map attention in high detail. Now, look, if you look at our eyes, you see that there's a colored circle and a dark circle in the middle, and then that's surrounded by white. And that makes your eye very visible to other people, animals too, but to other people particularly. Human eyes are quite unique in that regard, and it looks like we've evolved to have highly visible eyes. And the reason for that is that we communicate with other people, and they can read our motivations by watching our eyes. So if you stand on the corner and you look up at nothing in the sky, and you stand there long enough, someone else will join you. And then if there's two people, then there'll be 10 right away. And the reason for that is that and this is again something uniquely human, we attend to where other people point their eyes, assuming that if they're interested in it, we might be interested in it too. And so and human beings are visual animals. About half our brain is taken up with visual processing. We're much more visual than virtually any other animal. And so computers are soon going to be able to track where we place our eyes, which of course advertisers are incredibly interested in. And that's going to speed up the ability of high-powered computational devices to understand human beings as a group, but also each of us individually to an immense degree, And so, I think we're probably 10 years away from computers that understand us better than we understand ourselves. AI machines are going to get extremely good at this because it's so lucrative to be able to gauge attention. There's nothing that's more valuable than that. And so,
do you feel like there should be it's hard to say there should be legislation, because I hate to put anything on the that it's the government's responsibility, but should there be like rules or legislation between allowing computers and AI to get that advanced, or is it still just fall on the feet of us as humans just to battle kind of the dark arts of these machines that can sort of like take us into a trance and then monetize the trance at the same time?
I think that legislation, in some senses, it's going to be playing catch up, and it's going to be farther and farther behind all the time, because this is moving so fast and with such power, and it's so distributed that no one is going to be able to even keep track of it, much less regulate it. I mean, the interconnected environment is changing so rapidly that even if you're reasonably tech savvy, you can't keep up with all the major changes. And there's no evidence whatsoever that that's going to do anything but accelerate. And so I can't see how legislators have the ghost of a chance at keeping up with this, even if they knew what to target or what to legislate.
Yeah.
And, more and more engineers I think China now graduates more engineers every year than the United States has engineers.
Oh yeah, China, you could be 8 years old in China and be a damn engineer. I've been over there and I've seen a 6-year-old build a damn bridge in front of me. You know what I'm saying? They're highly capable.
Yes, well, and lots of other cultures are coming online very rapidly. And so and there's no shortage of unbelievably proficient amateurs online as well, and programming, and so we ain't seen nothing yet.
Jeepers.
And I really do believe your computer is gonna understand you so well. I think it won't be long till it knows what you're going to do more accurately than you do. I think that's already true to some degree, but
well, then we're at a real loss, because then if I've been afraid to make a plan for myself in my life, and I've been afraid, and I've been living in the fog, and I've been just, kind of sidestepping, really putting my fucking pants on as a human and taking some action. If I'm in that fog and then the computer is able to figure out what I'm going to do before I've even done it, but I haven't even made a plan, then surely the computer is going to make a plan for me, it feels like.
I think the computer is making a plan for you all the time already. By default, look, that's exactly what advertising is advertising makes a plan for you. There's no difference between those two things, except maybe one of sophistication. So, when you're watching something and an ad pops up, that's a little world that you could visit. And the advertiser obviously wants you to visit that. And the problem there, because you might think, well, it would be really good, the computer can help you make a plan. But I think what's more likely to happen, because at least to begin with, the computer is going to be paid, so to speak, by the advertisers to capitalize on your short-term impulsivity, is that ever more attractive distractions are going to be dangled in front of you. And that's likely to keep you in the fog. And
what can I do, like, to kind of, are we going to start to see like new parts of like new, like small societies form of people that don't want to be influenced by technology? Or, what do you feel like some of the future looks like as far as trying to retain some sense of holding on to my attention and using it for myself, as opposed to letting it be used by outside influences? Does that make any sense or not?
Yes. Well,
Okay, good.
look, there's another rule, I suppose, a dictum perhaps, that if you don't have your own story, then you're going to be a bit player in someone else's
Amen.
story. Okay, so let's talk about that fog again. So let's say, because of the reasons you already laid out, you don't want to make your conditions for failure conscious, because then you know when you're failing, and that hurts. You don't want to make your plans for the future too clear, because then if you don't attain what you're looking for, it's very clear that you've lost it, which is somewhat different than failure, right? And then there's also the problem that if you make your motives clear to other people, then they really have the ammunition to hurt you, because like, I can hurt you by depriving you of what you want, but I can hurt you even better if I really know what you want and can deprive you of that. So you have reasons to keep these things unclear. But the problem then is that you don't have a direction that's powerful, right? Because you're not consulting yourself, watching yourself, learning about yourself, figuring out who you are, and figuring out what kind of route through life you would have to take to be engaged. Okay, so then you get weak because you're not integrated. You're all over the place. You're scattered. Well, then anybody who has power for one reason or another can compete with you for your own attention and win. And so if you don't have your own plan, painful as it is to develop one, partly because you have to take your own inadequacies into account. Oh yes, and you also mentioned, you posit an ideal, this is what I want, or this is who I could be. The farther away that is from you, the more inadequate you feel in relationship to it. So that's another reason to avoid it. But yes, well, that's why every ideal is a judge. There's no getting away from that. Now, if it's too much for you, I might say, well, make a lesser ideal. Like, try to pursue something that doesn't intimidate you into paralysis.
Right. Start with something closer that's more manageable, huh? So you can even prove to yourself that you can do it.
Exactly. Well, what you really want to do is you want to lay out a plan that has a pretty high-end aim, but that also consists of steps that aren't too intimidating. So you have to ask yourself, I would like to do this. I should do it, but would I do it? And the answer is likely to be no, often, because you know what you're like. You're supposed to go to the gym, but you don't. It's like, okay, well, maybe you won't go to the gym, but maybe you'd walk half a block every second day, something like that. And you have to ask yourself, I write about this in the first chapter about the advantage of being a fool. If you notice that you're not so good at something, then you can calibrate down the goal until a fool like you can manage it, and then you can attain it, and then you're not quite so much of a fool. And so, okay, so you have to build a plan. I have a tool for that I often recommend for people called self-authoring.
I'm very familiar with it.
Okay, well, it was developed in an attempt to help people write out an account of themselves, right, past, present, and future, but relevant to this discussion is to make a plan. It's like, what is it that you need to thrive in the world, or at least not to become bitter? And if you don't have your own plan that you're committed to, right, and honestly committed to, what that means is that you will be the pawn of other people's decisions.
Especially now more than ever, it feels like. Do you think that that's true?
Well, that certainly seems to be the conclusion we're reaching in the course of this conversation. It's like, as the powers around you become more and more invasive, but also of more utility to you to some degree. I mean, we don't want to be completely negative about computational power.
Right,
we wouldn't be having this discussion without it. But as the forces around you have more and more capacity to grip your attention, it stands to reason that you're going to have to be the captain of your own ship to a greater and greater degree. Otherwise, you'll fall prey to those who wish to monetize your attention.
So it's time to make a plan. If you haven't made a plan, it's time to have a plan. It's a really good time to have a goal and to have a plan. Hope you enjoyed that video, and you can watch another. And you can watch this one, you can watch this one. Different options, different choices. Some guy just brings you one option, not this guy. 2 options. Watch one, this one or this one.